If there was a factory producing excellent engineers, that would be true. Where is this factory? It doesn't exist. So it's incredibly difficult to find the right talent, integrate them into an organization, and have it work effectively. It's not a money thing. It's just hard to find. There's just a small number of people,
More engineers?
Especially, there's just a fundamental limitation on exceptional engineers. There's just not that many.
So given like these constraints and all the things you have to do, could you tell us like a little bit about your thinking on how you prioritize?
And the prioritizing has usually been out of desperation, not choice. It's not like, let's sit back and how should we spend these resources? This damn thing isn't going to work. If we don't make it work, we're going to go bankrupt. So, and then so we better make it work. The Model 3 program, there were so many mistakes that were made with the Model 3 program that the entire company had to be devoted to fixing the Model 3 production system. So, we took everyone off solar, almost everyone off battery pack, power pack, and that kind of thing. Anyone who was working on, Roadster, Semi, everyone stop doing that, work on Model 3, or there won't be any Tesla.
Yeah. It's kind of amazing. You really bet the whole company to get to this next level, but, I have a Model 3. I couldn't afford a Model S, so, I'm very thankful that you guys decided to bet the whole company.
There was no choice. It's like either you got to get to volume. It's a chicken and egg situation. You can't make the car at an affordable price unless you have high volume. Unless you have high volume, you can't get an affordable price. So now what do you do?
Yeah.
How do you bootstrap this thing? You basically just got to take a giant flying leap at high volume and hope you get to grab a cliff ledge with your fingertips.
Yeah, it seems like
it's like that Indiana Jones where you're like running down the thing, and here's what it actually feels like. It's like that, what Temple of Doom, whatever, where it's like there's a damn boulder chasing you down. Okay,
arrows shooting,
and there's a big hole in the ground.
Can you make that game?
And you're gonna jump across the hole in the ground, and if you slow down, the boulder's gonna crush you.
Oh my God.
This is what it feels like. It's not like, I wonder what we shall do. It's like boulder, hole in the ground, and then jump across or you're gonna die. So that's basically, the situation. At this point, maybe we could say okay, what shall we do at this point? The biggest problem we have to solve right now is just having production on each continent, because it's insane to be making cars in California, shipping them to Europe and Asia. This is, as it is, making cars in the Bay Area is pretty absurd. And then you also got to ship those cars halfway around the world. So you got all this finished goods inventory on the water. That's a very high capital carrying cost. And you can finance part of it, but not all of it. So you got the transport costs, you got tariffs, you got, every time a car gets loaded or unloaded, there's some potential for damage. It's not zero, so it just creates a lot of cost, and then it's hard to manage. And the factory complexity in California is amplified because you've got several different regulatory regimes. So you're building, it seems like you're building Model 3, but you're actually building several versions of a Model 3 depending upon whether it's going to China, Japan, Australia, Europe. Then you got goddamn right-hand drive. Okay. It's like every night everything's gonna go. Oh yeah. Because of some random bureaucratic decision 100 years ago. Right-hand drive, left-hand drive. This is a mega pain in the ass.
Put it in the middle.
Yeah, absolutely. And all these different languages, can't have like warning labels in English if they don't speak English. It's like, I don't know what it means. So there's stickers all over the place for 17 different languages or whatever it is, and that's all in one factory. So the complexity amplifies the difficulty of manufacturing, and then you kind of get into the cycle where in the first month in the quarter, or let's say first 6 weeks in the quarter, you build cars for Europe and Asia, and you get them on the boats. And then for the next, say, 3 weeks, you build cars for the East Coast of the US or North America. And then the final 3 weeks, you build cars for the West Coast. So the deliveries early in the quarter look very, very low, and they spike exponentially at the end because basically all the cars arrive at the customers at the end of the quarter. And then we're like, then we'll have these conversations. We've got to get out of this wave. And they're like, well, they'll punish us very badly if we get out of the wave because the financials will look horrible.
Yeah.
So then we end up, okay, we'll do the wave again. And so now we've got a factory in Shanghai that'll go a long way towards alleviating the complexity and the cost. We'll have far fewer goods that we need to finance that are on boats. Once we get the factory going in Berlin, or Brandenburg technically, which is close to Berlin, then this massively reduces the complexity of production and reduces the fundamental cost of the vehicle. So this will really de-stress the company a lot.
So local production will break the wave.
Local production will break the wave. I mean, just like we've had a number of times that headlights have come up as an issue. It's crazy. We've had to ship cars to Europe many times where the supplier of the headlights for the EU headlights couldn't match rate, or made them wrong or something, and then so we have to make cars with US headlights, ship them to Europe, then ship a bunch of EU headlights to Europe, change them in the port because they're not allowed to exit the port until they have the EU headlights.
Oh my God.
So that was the port problems we would see.
That's one of the many port problems.
Wow.
So like first quarter last year was a tragedy of errors. It's not a comedy, but a tragedy. And Belgium went on strike. Right, and you're like, what do you mean Belgium's on strike? I'm like, yeah, a lot of cars were coming into Zeebrugge, and we're like, okay, now what do we do? Nothing. Just cars are stuck because okay, but then they're scheduled to go off strike on this other day, and like, okay, so then we can move things. Great. There's just so many things. And cars got stuck in the port of Shanghai because they had the wrong sticker.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
put the wrong sticker.
Did the sticker man get
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. It's like, it's better off like just made it in China. And sell it
Absolutely,
to China.
for sure.
Like
Totally agree.
you don't have to spend like 2 weeks, 3 weeks on the ocean. Go there and wrong sticker, and you have to wait and replace.
People don't appreciate Giga Shanghai yet completely. I
Not
think.
until recently.
Not totally. Definitely
Not yet. I don't think people have realized it.
Not fully.
It's
but
extremely important.
yeah.
Yeah. And these like shipping times are like technically it's possible if everything goes right, you can
Yeah.
get the car there in 2 weeks, but the ships don't leave every single day. And then you also have to queue. You can't just instantly load the cars. So the cars, you have to like send like 2,000 cars to a lot in like, Port Oakland or Port of San Francisco, accumulate the cars, then they get moved to another place, then they get loaded onto the ship one at a time.
Oh my God.
And then finally the ship leaves, and then like sometimes the ship has problems,
Yes.
and like there's storms or something.
Storm and custom.
Yeah, no, like it's
You
not
have
like
to go through every single.
it's so much drama. Then there's ship,
Too many ways to go wrong. Like,
so yeah, and then like the ship's engine broke down, so it's like it's stuck somewhere. and yeah,
but it's great. Like right now, like everything roll off the production line, go directly to the delivery center.
That's great.
It's wonderful. So I have another question. It's like, from your perspective, how do Chinese public perceive EV?
Well, China is very pro EV, and it's the biggest EV market in the world. I think it's like half of all the EVs are made and bought in China.
Yeah,
something like
as
that.
of right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So China sort of subsidies for EVs have dropped considerably, so that did cause a reduction.
Helps a lot. Yeah.
Well, the EV incentives were very high in China, and now they're much less. They're like a third of what they used to be, or less.
Yes.
So that's caused some decline in demand, as one would expect. But China is still the biggest market for EVs in the world, so I think they're very positively received.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
So talking about the incentives, because I know the price, there was a small price reduction, right, in the Chinese Model 3, but then the subsidies were the balance, so it's actually not. It's not any impact on Tesla in the profit, right?
No, I don't think so. Well, I think obviously depending on what percentage of the car is made in China, the parts that are made in China are not subject to a tariff, so that's certainly helpful. We also save on logistics, and generally we found that locally sourced parts in China cost less than in the US or Europe. So this is all pretty helpful. Also, the Tesla got added to the purchase tax exemption, which all the other. This is. I'm not sure if people realize just how much of an uphill battle Tesla has had to sell cars in China. It's been really, we had basically no access to any of the subsidies, and we paid a tariff, and we had to ship the cars over, and every single thing was set against Tesla, and still we made progress and did decently well. So I think that it will be a much better situation with local production, not having to do shipping and tariffs, and being able to have lower cost local sourcing of components. So it make a big difference, I think.
Is that your victory dance when you broke ground in China?
Yeah,
that was great.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, it is a victory.
Huge.
Just in terms of just fundamental economics, it kind of makes sense that making cars on the continent where they are bought will be a lot more efficient than making them in California and shipping them around the world. Yeah.
And you can get paid for the cars before paying your suppliers, which seems to not be the case if you're shipping around the world. Right. And that could be a huge friction on the whole kind of cash flow situation, or it has been.
For sure, it will sure make a big difference on cash flow because, it's there's just no way to get the cars, especially to Europe, but even to China, to get them to customers, before we have to pay suppliers. So if you're a rapidly growing company, it's night and day if you get paid by your customers before you have to pay your suppliers, like night and day, because then the faster you grow, the better your cash position is. Mm-hmm. But if it's the other way around, where you have to pay your suppliers before you get paid by customers, then the faster you grow, the faster your cash position drops.
Yes, because you're going to spend more money to make more cars.
So growth actually causes you to auger into the ground in a situation like that. Now at Tesla, we had a mixture of both things, where we had a lot of customers in California, and that's fast. For sure, we would get paid by customers faster than we would have to pay suppliers. But then for cars going to Europe and Asia, it's the other way around, So we would have to pay suppliers before we got paid by customers. And now we could offset some of that with the asset-backed line, which was pretty helpful, but only some of it, not all of it. So the fundamental financial health for sure improves dramatically by just having a factory on the continent. Okay, we're not talking next door, but it's just how many oceans. Especially Europe was logistically super hard because we're on the West Coast. If we're on the East Coast, then China would be much harder. But if you're on the West Coast, Europe's much harder because you've got to go through the Panama Canal, or even worse, around Tierra del Fuego. Because sometimes the Panama Canal get backed up, and you're like, this friggin' ship is going to the Antarctic. It's like you just go up to the and it's stormy as hell. So you got to send a ship around Chile? Are you kidding? In the middle of crazy storms, and then back up all the way, and then it is so funny. Oh my god. So logistic nightmare. So yeah, it'd be great to just have it not get on a boat and cross the Pacific and Atlantic and that kind of thing.
So maybe similar to Vincent's question earlier, what's the biggest advantage in choosing Berlin compared to other European countries?
Berlin has the best nightclubs.
That's true. Have you been?
I went to Bergheim once.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy shit. That's cool.
Yeah, so several years ago. Well, I don't know. I mean, we looked at a lot of different locations, and I think sort of